Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This is DiceGames, and today we're going to be doing something a bit different. We're going to be making chocolate. Yeah, I know, this is really different from what I normally do, but we actually had cocoa beans in the house and we wanted to film our process of making chocolate. So, without further ado, let's get into it. At the beginning, we decided to open our cocoa beans, and what we found inside are some very gelatinous looking beans. And these little beans are extremely messy to work with, but once we got the hang of them, you just wipe off the membrane, and we decided to put them in a glass jar that we used for tomato sauce previously. And by putting them in the jar, it allows them to ferment. After putting them in the jar, we decided to put them inside what is known as a sous vide machine. A sous vide machine is a water bath that cooks food at constant temperature, set at by a machine that controls the temperature of the water. Keep it heated.
It's 40 Celsius.
Okay.
Yeah.
We put it in the Ziploc.
104 Fahrenheit.
Like that. So we're going to keep it in here for about 4 or 5 days. Let's see how that turns out, because that should ferment it nicely. By cooking it for 5 days, we effectively allow the beans to ferment. That in turn will give us what we're looking for the next step. After 5 days, we decided to take out the bag to see what the contents inside would look like. And at first, we weren't sure if it was actually fermented, but after close inspection, we could see that it definitely had fermented and had changed appearance. What do you think? You smell it.
It has a little sweet smell. So it's a little bit, I don't know, you tell me what it smells like.
Yeah, it has a bit of a sweet kind of pungent smell. The next step is to put all of the beans on a flat baking sheet and separate them in order to cook away the membranes. Cooking away the membranes will allow us to attack the beans in a much easier fashion. It will effectively remove all of the husks surrounding the beans and allow us to get to the meat that's really inside. Here we just took the beans one by one and kind of took off the membraney stuff. And by the way, this is safe to touch. Don't worry, if it's fermented, it's still safe to touch. But here, we just decided to spread out the beans evenly on a flat baking sheet, as mentioned before, and decided to separate out the ones that looked a bit rotten. After putting them on the tray, we put them in the oven in order to dehydrate them. By dehydrating, we allow the husks to be intact so we can remove them in our next step. Here we're just lightly separating the beans a little bit and making sure that they are dehydrating evenly. We decided to dehydrate them for 2 days straight while leaving the oven on. Our oven unfortunately does not go lower than 100 degrees, so in order to effectively remove any membrane that is still left and fully dehydrate them, we had to open the oven slightly to let out a little bit of heat. We kept our oven at 150 degrees and propped it open with a metal baking sheet. After 2 days, we decided to put them back in the oven in order to roast them. By roasting them, we allowed the husks to now be fully intact and ready for separation. Up next, we are removing the husks. By removing the husks, we then get to the meat inside, and that is the cocoa that we are looking for. Now, this process is definitely a challenging one. What the industries do for this step is they decide to crush everything, even the inside of the beans, and then they take a large fan and blow away all of the light husks that are still left. And by the laws of nature, light husks fly when they are blown on, and the heavier chocolate pieces fall. So when the industries do this, it allows them to evenly separate out the husks that are unwanted. Here, we decide to do it differently. We push on the husk a little bit with our finger, and that causes a little separation to occur. That will allow for easy manipulation of the bean and husk, and allow for the bean to still be intact once we separate the husk. We have now finished removing all of the husks, and by doing that, we have now gotten access to all of the beans, exactly what we are looking for. Now, with the beans, we can move on to our next step, and that is to mix up the chocolate itself. And the way we do that is by taking cocoa butter and sugar and mixing it with the chocolate and grinding it together into a fine, powdery, pasty substance. Here we decided to use a coffee grinder in order to easily manipulate all of the different parts of the equation. We also realized that adding more cocoa butter allows for better manipulation of the chocolate inside the machine. So the more you add in, the easier it becomes to work with. However, you don't want to add too much at the end because adding too much will result in a white chocolate. After realizing that the coffee grinder was starting to burn out, we decided to switch to the blender. Now, I'm not sure everybody's blender will work for this because high power like this might just wreck it, but for us it was just fine and exactly what we needed.
Okay. Smells good.
Now that we have our luscious chocolate, we now can make it into whatever we desire. In that case, we decided to make two things: a bar of chocolate and these interesting things I found on the web called quinoa crispies. But before doing this, we still have one last step to do, and that is to temper. Tempering the chocolate will allow us to effectively bring it to the right place and right temperature in order to get the exact chocolatey feel that we need. This is our chocolate mold. We just made it from some aluminum foil wrapped around a little plastic container at the top. Now that our tempered chocolate is finished, we have to fill up the mold in order to make our chocolate bar. We will also be using the same chocolate in order to make these quinoa crispies. To prepare the quinoa for the quinoa crispies, you have to cook it in salty water for around 15 minutes until the water is absorbed. After that's done, you have to spread it out on the tray and then put it in an oven for around 20 minutes at around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure to check and mix regularly. It is very easy to burn, so make sure it's crispy and not burnt. You want to mix the chocolate, dried quinoa, and dried berries into a bowl, and then scoop them out one by one in the fashion we demonstrated. After they are done, put them in the refrigerator for about an hour. And after that, check on them and check to see how they're doing. They should come out looking solid and being able to have a nice crisp to them. As for the chocolate bar, the exact same should happen. It should also be coming out solid and have a very good and hearty crisp. Now for the taste test. I can definitely say that this was worth it. It was the perfect balance of sweetness and tanginess in both the dark chocolate bar and the dark chocolate crispies. I hope you guys decide to try this on your own, because this was such a fun project to do, and we really did enjoy making these chocolate. In the description are the ingredients used to make this chocolate bar and the measurements required in order to put together your very own chocolate. Thank you for watching and have a great day.